Dale.
Hi. I finally figured out I had to hit the
Oh,
web.
we can't hear you. It says your microphone is on, but we can't hear you.
Oh, what do you think I need to do?
You might need to check your sound settings. In the upper right-hand corner, you should have a little thing that looks like a gear. If you click on that, it should let you. Oh, I take that back. Gail, say something.
Hello.
Oh, it's not you, it's me.
Oh, okay. Good.
Sorry. I had someone who had audio issues in my last meeting, and I had to turn my speakers off because they called me on the phone and I was giving feedback. So okay. No, not your sound, it was my sound.
Oh, okay, very good.
Now we're good. Did we switch the?
Yeah, it's on 7
for the broad. Oh.
Hi.
Hi, Eric.
Let's see if Dave can log in.
I don't care.
All right, I have 2 people named Microsoft account.
Hello? You hear me?
Yes, who is speaking?
David Spencer. I still can't get my camera to work on this thing.
No, you are a big black box labeled Microsoft account, Dave.
Oh, great. I can't wait to get back to in-person life.
Oh,
it
doesn't let me rename you because you're not a caller. And then we have someone else who's labeled Microsoft account.
It says Mark Messier on my.
Yeah, we have Mark. I wonder if you're the same one because I don't know.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to try to just listen in on this.
Okay. Hi, Mia.
Hi there. Oops. I don't know why it doesn't want my camera to go on. Oh.
We are troubleshooting a cable issue. I will be back.
Okay.
Do we know what's happening?
She said something with internet, I think she said.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I heard her say cable issues.
Cable issues, okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry for the delay. So Jolene and I have spent the last 10 to 15 minutes on the phone with our IT expert trying to figure out why this is not broadcasting on channel 191 to no avail. But we are streaming on Town Hall Streams, so I think we're going to get started and go ahead. And I'm going to hit record so we don't keep you guys any longer than we need to.
This conference will now be recorded.
And Gail, you can get started.
Okay, I will call the meeting to order at 6:43 p.m. Those in attendance, myself, Gail Bruin, let's go around because I'm not seeing everyone, just to be sure.
Eric Spencer?
Mia Mitoma.
David Spencer.
Joseph Blotz.
Okay.
Mark Messier.
Well,
Okay.
I think you officially need to seat Mia since she is an alternate.
Yeah. Okay. We will officially seat Mia since we do not have the requisite number of members here. Do I need to do more than that?
Nope.
Okay.
Just need to know she's seated for the record.
Okay. So going to the agenda, then the first item is to approve the minutes from our December meeting. It seems like a long time ago. If we could have a motion for that.
David Spencer, I'll move to approve the minutes of December 16th, 2020.
The second. Eric is seconding. All in favor? Or any discussion? All in favor? Okay, the minutes are. Okay, minutes are approved. Okay, so now, Linda, you want to speak to what we're, okay.
Yes, so we have the first item of new business is an application for a certificate of appropriateness for a small food pantry at 549 Stores Road in Mansfield Center at the First Church of Christ. And Reverend Joseph Blotz is with us this evening to explain this. Staff became aware that this small food pantry was installed, and because it was installed in front of the church, we did ask the Reverend to submit an application for your consideration. I think I'll defer the explanation to him, but what I will do is just pull up the photos and share my screen so that everyone can see those while Reverend Blotz is giving you an overview of the project here.
Great. Well, first, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and for putting me on the agenda so quickly. I'm really, really grateful. Back in December, Food Share reached out to us and let us know of their identification of our region as a food insecure area and approached us about opening a food pantry at the church. As we sort of discerned whether we had the capacity to do that, one of the things we thought we could do in the short term was provide a small 24-hour accessible food pantry that people could take what they needed, folks could share what they had excess of, and we would be able to address some of that food insecurity in a small way. So the The box itself is about 3 feet by 2 feet by, I think, 17 inches. It's made of pine, currently sealed, and on a post near the Browns Road parking lot of the church. Is that about the information you're looking for from me at this point?
Yeah, it was, I couldn't tell from the photographs the location. You've just told me now, and I apologize. I didn't drive down to see it.
No, and actually these photographs are from the builder's prospectus. So it's not, these aren't in situ. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you mentioned that this is a provisional box, that you're planning to do something different, or is this it?
This will be the box itself. The church may eventually decide to partner with Food Share for a project indoors, but it would not be, the expanded project would not be outdoors. It would be
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Anyone else have questions? From my perspective, I think it looks fine. It's very nicely built. It's really not what I would call a permanent structure, so I'm not overly concerned with it in terms of the historic district. I don't know how others feel about it.
Hey, Spencer,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, it's unintrusive. It's made of wood, so it looks fine.
All right, so it sounds like if we could just get an official motion, basically saying that you've determined that, certificate of appropriateness is not needed for this because of its temporary nature. That will actually be helpful for us because, quite frankly, there's another church that had actually contacted us back in December, and we'd advised them, and they just hadn't filed. So I can actually, if this is just in general, if they're doing the same type of structure, we can send them this photo and say, look, if you're doing this, you don't need, the commission's determined a certificate's not needed for that.
Can I clarify? Our hope is not to keep it temporary. I mean, I think for the foreseeable future, we would like to keep it in sight.
No, I understand
Our
that.
definition of, this is Dave Spencer, our definition of temporary is something that's doesn't become an integral part of a building or something that couldn't be removed without, damage.
I see. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we're fine to proceed with it in that manner. I guess I was a little surprised that we are a food necessary area, really.
And this actually gives me a lovely segue that Jolene reminded me of before the Reverend signs off, is we actually have a food assistance program right now for families who have been impacted by COVID. And so, Reverend, we may be in touch to see how you can help us spread the word, especially to your parishioners. Because we did receive funding. It's actually federal funding that comes to the state of Connecticut to assist both with food nutrition for families and individuals and seniors that have been impacted by the pandemic, and also child care costs. So those are our two areas. So we would love to work with you to get the word out to parishioners on how we can help, Mansfield families and seniors and residents take advantage of those resousys.
Brilliant.
So
That'd be wonderful. We'd love to partner.
Great. Now that I've done my lobbying pitch, my marketing pitch for the evening. So Gail, what I'm hearing is by consensus, the commission does not believe a certificate of appropriateness is needed for structures of this type.
That's correct. I believe that's correct. And in that size, sort of general size.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to form a motion?
What do you think?
It's probably the best way to do it. If we can get a motion in a second and a vote.
Okay. May we have a motion again?
So I just wrote down certificate of appropriateness not required because of temporary nature of food box. So if someone can just say so moved, it'll be moved.
So moved.
Okay.
A second. Dave Spencer.
Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking time to explain
Oh my
it to
goodness.
us. We
Well,
appreciate
thank you again for the speed with which we were added to the agenda and for your gracious questions. I really appreciate it.
it. Thanks a lot.
Thank
All right,
you.
have a wonderful night.
Meet you virtually.
You too.
And
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
So the next item on your agenda, I just wanted to give an update. Gail had asked that we just kind of let the commission know what's going on. So you may remember that last year, and I think this was immediately prior to the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember meeting in conference room A, the Historical Society came in and did a presentation on some improvements that they were planning on making for drainage, and they ultimately had to come back and get a certificate of appropriateness to demolish a chimney on one of the two structures, and you approved that. And the purpose of that was to really prepare them for applying for a state grant to assist in doing those improvements. So they went through the process with the town last summer. The town council did authorize the submission of that application. Unfortunately, before they had a chance to submit, the state shut the program down temporarily. And since the council's authorization was for the interim town manager at the time, they needed to revise that before they can submit it. The application process is now open again. And at the last, I believe it was the last, not this week's council meeting, but a couple of weeks ago, it was on the agenda to authorize the new town manager, Ryan Aylesworth, to submit that application. There was an extensive debate about this, and I will say there was also some debate back in July, I believe, when they first considered this. They ultimately did authorize that change to have Ryan submit this, but a lot of the discussion is centering around the cost of the improvements that are needed to that building. This is only one small component. So this is literally just the kind of doing some drainage improvements. As you're aware, there was a whole other study undertaken that identified a lot of improvements that those buildings need. So I think there's going to be a longer term discussion by the council in terms of how and quite frankly, to move, if they want to move forward with this, and improvements to this building. There have been suggestions that the town should consider divesting itself of the building. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gail. Since I give it.
I suggested to Linda that I think we should have a voice in this because it is a major asset in our Spring Hill Historic District. It is the original town hall and a building that's been important to the town for a long time. So in my view, it's very short-sighted of the town to consider costs ahead of, the keeping that building. So I don't know if we can write a letter, be involved in some of the hearings. I don't know how we go forward, but I think it's important that we have a voice. Any ideas?
So, in my suggestion in talking to Gail was, if this is something, the first step would probably be the commission sending a letter to the council, expressing your concern about the building and requesting, an opportunity to be, involved, in talk with the council at greater length about the importance of the building and why you think it's important that the town not only keep it as a town building and a town asset, but also invest in it, its structural integrity over the long term. And so if the commission, thinks that's something that you do want to pursue and really try and have a conversation with the council, probably the best thing would just be to move to authorize Gail to write a letter on the commission's behalf. You could also do this in such a way that, it comes back at the next meeting, although we have not been meeting regularly because we haven't had a lot of business. So I can't speak to, when you would meet again, but you could move and vote to authorize the chair to send a letter on behalf of the commission asking to be involved in discussions regarding the future of the building.
And I would appreciate any input from any of you in terms of ideas that you might have. And if I'm going to be writer of it funnels ideas through me, and I'll incorporate them. I mean, it just seems to me that legally, it's a historic district. That they seem, we seem to really need to be involved.
Yeah, does the building have any historical, is it registered in any way with the state as a historical building itself?
Well, all the buildings that are in the district are on the state and the National Register. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I think the Connecticut State Historical, or state, whatever, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, would be concerned about this.
Yeah, I think it seems to me that the issue is that if the repairs that are required now are extensive, that a decision not to make them now probably means that eventually the building will be demolished and you can't go back from there. It's
Right.
not going to get cheaper.
Mm-mm.
So it's not merely a decision. I think we should point out it's not merely a decision to save some money in a budget this year or next year or whenever. It's a decision about the existence of the building down the road, and maybe not that far down the road if the structure becomes something that needs to be condemned. I don't remember the extent of the repairs and the ramifications of what's wrong with it from the prior meeting. So I'm not certain.
Yeah, Dave, I was just gonna say the only thing that right now that they're looking at is just the drainage improvement. So my understanding is that there was a whole study done of that building that have a lot of other things that need to be addressed. The first step that they've identified is correcting the drainage to kind of prevent any further degradation from water damage.
And I was gathering from what you said that their objection to that was based partly on the fact that they were aware of future costs, that they might be heading down a road towards spending more money to preserve the building, and that they either hadn't thought of the fact that they'd be condemning the building or didn't care, one or the other.
Well, and I also don't want to present this as everyone on the council is on the same page on this. There's definitely debate. I would encourage you to go back and watch the meetings. I'm not saying that this is, they ultimately voted to advance this grant application, but questions were raised, about, because while this is a grant application for, I think it's for a $50,000 grant from the state, the town is committing $50,000 through that process to doing these improvements. And so that, there's a commitment there from the town, and there were definitely questions raised about, okay, it's 50,000 now, but then, how much are we looking at in the future, and should we really be doing this? So I think that's probably why Gail reached out after that, because you reached out to after that meeting. So I'm gathering you probably watched that meeting or heard about it.
Yeah. And Mia, you're probably more involved than any of us. No, with the historical.
I thought you meant in the conversations with the town. I'm somewhat involved. I know online they've been doing a lot of sharing of historical buildings, not just buildings, but also just historical information about the town through social media during COVID. So I know they weren't open for a long time. So they've been doing a lot of outreach, and they have a lot of participation online. I know probably we, non-COVID times, we have a handful of guests that will actually visit for historical reasons, and they want to stay in a historical house. So they'll ask about the Historic Society, Railroad Museum, things of that nature. So there's certainly interest from like sightseeing tourism perspective, but I would say it's I do know that the Historic Society also works and partners with UConn to have different events. I was thinking the most recent one was for costume and looking at historical clothing. So yes, there is, and I think again, so this is, to me, I think of this in two different aspects. Certainly, the historical work can be done that is separate from the building. I do think there is advantage, obviously, to having the historical building, but I can certainly understand living in a historic home that that budget is a real thing. So, I definitely think it would benefit us to really have a conversation with the town council to kind of see where they're at, because I honestly don't know. I think Eric said this too. I don't know what the extent is of the additional work that if the town is putting in 550,000, wherever that zero is, 50,000 or 500,000, I think it's 50. You want to know that if you're putting that into it, that you're not just going to end up demolishing the building in another year because you can't do the other projects. So I would certainly propose Gail to, I don't know if that's the right verbiage, to write a letter on behalf of the commission for us to at least be part of the conversation so that we know, so that we have more information and that we can at least give our perspective and see if there's a way to make the improvements happen. So I'll end there.
Was that a motion, Mia?
It seems.
I made a motion.
It seems to me that.
What, Dave?
Dave?
Oh, I guess it seems to me if you want to write a letter, we could use email so that, it could be edited or people could add things so it comes from the whole group.
I think that was, maybe Linda can say, I remember this being a thing before that we can't.
No, we can't do that. We have to do that at a meeting.
So the two options are, one, you can either just authorize Gail to do this and, based on your conversation. If you want to be able to review the letter before it goes to the council, then we would need to bring it back to you at a future meeting. We cannot do it over email. It's a violation of the Freedom of Information Act and meeting rules.
Huh. Yeah, I think I do remember that now.
Linda, what is our timing on this? Is there urgency, or do you think we have?
No, because again, they have authorized Ryan to sign the grant application, so that it's going to go in. Ultimately, if it's awarded, that question may come back to the council. So I don't know what the timing is. I can talk to the town manager about when this is going to be. Right now, quite frankly, they're involved in a lot of budget stuff, so I don't think it's going to be happening, at the next meeting. But I know there were also questions raised, quite frankly, by the council as well about that study and what other improvements, are really needed to that building so that they have a better understanding.
Okay, well, why don't I go ahead and try and put something together, and let's assume that we will be having another meeting.
Okay.
And we can review it at that time. How about that?
All right. Okay, so then in that case, Mia, do you want to withdraw your motion, and Gail will work on that and we'll bring it back.
I withdraw the motion.
Linda,
Okay.
this question is there a document that has the added expenses evaluation?
I'll look
of
for
what
that and
needs
see
to
if
be
I
done
can find
besides the drainage that we could look
Yeah.
at, that we could be sent?
We'll look for the study. I don't know that it has dollar amounts to it. So I think the study kind of identified, here's your laundry list of things that have to be done. I don't know that there was, I don't know if there was a complete ballpark estimate or if there were any financial estimates at all.
Would that have been done by the Historical Society or the town building?
I actually think they hired an architect to come in and do it. From my recollection, from when we were doing the working with them last year on the drainage improvements, it was, I believe they said that I think there may have been a grant to get an architect to come in and do that assessment report.
Okay.
So it's not something I'm familiar with. It may have gone through a different arm. It may have been before we were really working with the Historic District Commission. So, but we will definitely try and see if I can find that. And if nothing else, I'm sure they can provide me with a copy if we don't have it here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, if we were to have a copy of that, then we might be able to have at least an idea of what the total cost might be and which things, absolutely would have to be done to preserve the building and what things might be on a wish list.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be good for Eric and Dave to put their eyes on that, I think, given their backgrounds. Mm-hmm.
All right. So that will be an item of old business for you at the next meeting.
Okay.
Great.
All right. And then the only other item that's on your agenda is really just an update from staff. So the first item there is a copy of a grant application that was filed on April 9th. And this is something I'm not sure how familiar you are with the recent discussions at the congressional level to reestablish what are called earmarks. And so they're essentially project-specific grants that Congress used to do through legislation. And they stopped doing them. I want to say it's about 10 years ago now. Both the House and Senate said, we're not doing this anymore. This is essentially pork. We're not going to, help basically kind of assign all these grants to little projects. So with the potential for earmarks being restarted, Congressman Courtney reached out and asked for proposals under two different categories. And one was under what you'll see in the your packet is a community project. And so as we talked about what types of projects might be eligible, one of the things that we discussed was the intersection of Route 195 and Route 89, which, as you recall, we are going to need to do some improvements to as part of the school project. And some of the feedback that we got during that process was really a request from the community to not just do the bare minimum. And to really do more to beautify that intersection, make it easier for pedestrians, and not just do kind of what the minimum that the traffic study said we needed to do to address operations. And so having gotten that feedback, we actually submitted an expanded intersection project for, as a request for federal funding. So I don't know if we're going to get it, but we did submit, one of the things you had to do was, demonstrate support. So we did submit the testimony that the Planning and Zoning Commission received from the community saying, please do more than just, kind of the slip lanes, the signalization, and removing of that asphalt island. So if this moves forward, there may be some potential for us to do more than we had originally, that more than we're proposing to do right now. So, but because that's in a historic district, in the historic district, I wanted to let you know, obviously, if, plans change, we will bring it back to you for review and comment, just like we did with the original intersection. So any questions on that? Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of detail here.
Yeah, the only question I would have is, because it's DOT, what's the timing for the town having other input in terms of doing more than just for cars and trucks on that intersection? So we're actually the ones who have to do those improvements. The state's not going to pay for that. So, we're paying for the initial improvements. I don't know that anything we do, and I'd have to talk to Derek. I don't know that anything we're doing now would preclude us from doing more. So some of this would be like, can we do some signalization upgrades? Can we do some pedestrian improvements? So I don't think that anything that's in that project would actually, if we did that and then got funding to do more, I don't think there's going to be a conflict there. But I'd have to verify that with our assistant town engineer. So you probably have to get state approval, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So would we have any input visually on what this looks like?
Because this is an improvement in the right of way, we would bring it to you for comment the same way, you have an advisory role. It's not an approval or denial, but you definitely have, a role in terms of advising on what what this would look like.
Sounds like my marriage.
So that again, at this point, I have no idea. We transmitted that a few weeks ago, and quite frankly, just so you're aware, we had about 10 days to pull 2 applications together. So this one and a sidewalk connection between the intersection of Route 195 and 44 and Tower Loop Road was the other project that was submitted, and that was a different category. So there is a phased process to this. Obviously, Congressman Courtney, I'm sure, received proposals from many, if not all, of the communities that are in his district. And the first step is for him to narrow, I believe the goal was to narrow those proposals down to 10 under each category that he would then bring forward. And ultimately, if you're moved forward to the next step, then I think you're competing against all the other projects from across the country that congressmen are bringing into this process. So again, we'll let you know. I just wanted to. There really was not time. Quite frankly, we actually submitted these applications on April 9th, and it was on the council agenda for April 12th. We did not have time to get the council to approve this before we submitted the applications. It was, hi, we did this Friday. If you don't support this, we'll call the congressman's office and say ignore that. But they did support both applications. All right.
I had just one question. I don't know if you know the answer to it. Is there in terms of the improvements to the intersection and the school project, is the thought that the grant would be, if it is approved, that we would have the funding to be able to have the intersection improvement done by the time the school is built?
Hopefully. I don't know what the congressional timing on all of this is. I'm not quite sure what bill it's wrapped up in. Again, we still have to go forward with those basic improvements, and they need to be complete. I have to go back to the PZC approval, but I'm pretty sure that intersection needs to be done before we open, because there were some basic changes we needed to make to address the traffic that would be associated with the school.
Thank you.
All right, and then I think the only other update, and I'll let Jolene can provide this. Gail did have a question for us about a sign that had popped up in the Spring Hill area from a contractor. So Jolene, I'll let you explain what's going on with that.
So I reached out to the number on the contract, on the sign. He was not responsible for the fence, so couldn't really speak to the fence other than to tell me that the homeowner had been apparently shut down with regard to the fence. He believed by the town. We don't think it was the town. We think it was DOT, as 195 is a state road. And perhaps the fence was too close to their right of way, or maybe, blocked sight lines or something. So he was going to reach out to the homeowner and have her call me. That did not happen today. So I will let you guys know if I hear that the fence is at all progressing.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a house, I've forgotten the address right now, but it's in Spring Hill. And there's a sign out front that says facelift reconstruction or something like that, with the phone number that Jolene called. I couldn't find anything about them online. And I wasn't sure what they had done. It looks like maybe they've just done painting, but there were posts along the road that looked like they were going to put up a fence. So that was concern there.
I think it might be a no-go per DOT, but we'll wait and see.
Thank you. Well, at least we've let them know that they do need to come before us for various improvements.
So that's all we have this evening.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you all. I realize this was short notice, but that literally we became aware of the food box on Monday. So it just happened to be good timing in terms of when we found out about it and the ability to turn around and have a meeting today.
I have one quick question in terms of meetings. Are we going to continue to meet virtually, or are we shifting?
So right now we are authorized to meet virtually through May 20th. We don't know what happens at that point. I will tell you that the original authorization expired April 19th at midnight, and I received an email that was timestamped 10:05 p.m. from the governor's office with the executive order saying we're extending. So quite frankly, I think we're just hoping for more notice as to what we're doing and what the rules were going to be. So we've heard that it may be extended through June, but we do not know. So we'll, obviously it's something we're paying close attention to as staff, trying to understand, if we're shifting to, back to in-person meetings, are there going to be rules in terms of social distancing, and how are we going to accommodate that? There is also at least one bill pending before the legislature that would make changes that would permanently authorize virtual meetings. But with some caveats. And actually, I think some of the language right now would actually require us to offer a virtual alternative. I've talked to a lot of different people, and I think many are struggling because the idea of having to do an in-person and a virtual meeting, or what is known as the hybrid, is from a staff and logistical perspective, is running two meetings at the same time. And, so we're trying, we don't know where that legislation's going. We don't know, how that's going to be fixed. I will tell you, one of the questions I've asked my attorney is how I do a virtual meeting when we're doing a site walk. I don't know how to do that. We will, we'll see what gets adopted. I think everything is well-meaning. The one thing that we've seen through this past year is that we've seen better attendance from both members and members of the public using the virtual format, because it does make it a little easier for folks, especially, for allowing members of the public to participate. On the same, at the same token, we also are getting requests right now that people really want to have in-person meetings. So, we're going to go by what the guidance from the state is and what the town is doing in terms of being open. Right now, we are open by appointment only, and there is hope that sometime in May, we will be transitioning back to a full-time open town hall.
Very good.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right.
This conference is no longer being recorded.